Do you still feel desire even after 60? And sometimes it confuses you, doesn't it? Because the body still wants, but the heart feels guilt. You ask yourself, does God condemn me for still feeling this? But the truth is that God understands human desire, but He also warns us about the danger of letting desire dominate the heart. Today, let's understand what God really says about this. Few people talk about this, but desire doesn't disappear just because age arrives. The body changes, yes, but the soul continues to feel, yearning for affection, touch, connection. And that's where many mature Christians begin to feel guilty, as if it were wrong to continue desiring. But is it really? See what is written in Psalm 103 verse 14. For He knows our frame, He remembers that we are dust. God knows how we are made. He knows every emotion, every impulse, every thought that arises. The Lord is not scandalized by desire. He understands it. After all, He is the one who created love, passion, and intimacy. The problem is not in feeling. The problem is where that feeling leads us. When desire begins to take God's place, when it becomes a refuge instead of a gift from Him, that is where the danger appears. And this danger is not only physical, it is spiritual. Many elderly Christians, living alone for years, end up being attacked by thoughts that once seemed distant. The enemy whispers, "No one needs to know," but the heart feels the weight because the Holy Spirit continues to speak. Have you been through this? Have you fought in silence with something that no one around you would understand? The Apostle Paul wrote in Galatians 5 verse 16, "Walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh." It is not a harsh order. It is an invitation to freedom. Paul is saying, don't fight alone. Walk with the Spirit, and He will give you strength to overcome what enslaves you. Because desire, when it is given to God, can be transformed into tenderness, care, pure and healthy love. Many think that growing old means ceasing to feel, but that is not true. Growing old is learning to feel differently. It is maturing the heart to understand what comes from the Spirit and what comes from the flesh. And that is exactly what we will talk about next. How to discern the difference between the desire that comes from God and the desire that can take you away from Him. There is an enormous difference between the desire blessed by God and the desire that enslaves us. One is born of love, the other of need. One draws us closer to God, the other takes us away. And it is very important to learn to recognize this line, especially in the third age when loneliness can shout louder than ever. Have you ever felt this emptiness? The silent house, the cold bed, the heart asking for a hug. Many confuse this cry for affection with a merely physical desire. But in truth, it is the soul saying, I still want to be loved. And there is no sin in that. Sin is when we seek to fill this void in the wrong way, with what God does not bless. The Bible never condemned desire, it condemns the misuse of it. In 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 3 it is written, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you know how to control your own body in holiness and honor, not dominated by the passion of lustful desires." Notice, God is not prohibiting feeling, He is teaching control. It is an invitation to wisdom, to spiritual maturity. After 60, the body may weaken, but the heart and mind are still battlefields. The enemy knows this and tries to distort what God created for good. But when desire is guided by the Spirit, it is transformed. You begin to see the beauty of a touch with affection, a gaze with tenderness, companionship with purpose. It is no longer a fire that consumes. It is a flame that warms. Love continues to exist, just matured, sanctified, guided by the heart of God. And if you have struggled with thoughts that shame you, remember, God does not reject you for this. He calls you closer. He wants to teach you to live desire with purity, without guilt, without shame, and without fear. But how to do this in practice? How to transform desire into something that edifies and does not destroy? That is what we will talk about next. But before, If this message is speaking to your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. This way, you help this word reach more people who need to hear this today. Transforming desire into something that glorifies God begins by recognizing that it exists. Denying what we feel is not faith. It is escape. God does not want you to hide what you feel. He wants you to bring it into the light so that the Holy Spirit can transform what is inside your heart. The first step is to pray with sincerity. Tell God exactly what you feel without masks, without fear. He already knows, but when you speak, the weight begins to leave. Desire does not need to be your enemy. It can become your teacher of humility because it teaches you to depend on God. The second step is to surrender control to Christ. Every time the thought comes, instead of blaming yourself, speak with Him. Lord, this feeling is here, but I want to honor you with it. And you will see how the Holy Spirit begins to change even the way you think. What once dominated you comes to be dominated by the peace of God. The third step is to seek healthy and spiritually mature relationships. Do not live isolated. Isolation is fertile ground for temptations. Find brothers and sisters in faith, with whom you can talk, pray, and grow. Fellowship heals. Loneliness weakens. And the fourth step is to redirect the desire. When the body and heart cry out for something you know does not please God, use that energy for something that feeds your soul. Pray, walk, sing, serve, write, hug someone in need. You will notice that the same fire that once burned can now illuminate. The Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 12, "Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. This is your spiritual worship." Notice, God does not want a lifeless, extinguished body. He wants a consecrated body. Spiritual maturity does not kill desire. It purifies it. And you know what is most beautiful? When you give even your desire into the hands of the Lord, He gives you back something much greater: peace. A peace that does not depend on having someone by your side, but on knowing that you are already fully loved by God. And that is exactly what we will talk about in the next segment. What to do when desire returns and loneliness tightens its grip, and it seems impossible to keep the heart at peace. There are days when everything seems calm, but suddenly the heart tightens. That memory comes back, the touch that no longer exists, the bed that seems bigger than it should, and desire returns. Sometimes it comes with guilt, other times with sadness. And you think, why do I still feel this, Lord? Shouldn't it have passed by now? But God is not scandalized by what you feel. He has compassion. In Hebrews 4 verse 15 it is written, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin." Jesus understands the struggle of the body, the mind, the soul. He does not look at you with disapproval. He looks with mercy. The secret is to take the desire to the altar before it takes you away from the altar. It is at that moment that you need to remember the presence of God fills more than any human touch. And when loneliness tightens its grip, when the silence seems to shout, the Holy Spirit whispers, "You are not alone." Many elderly Christians believe they have already lived everything there was to live. But God still wants to surprise you. He can transform the time of loneliness into a time of intimacy with Him. It is in this time that He heals old wounds, renews the mind, and strengthens the heart. And you know what is even more powerful? God can use even your desire to draw you closer to Him. Yes, because desire reveals need, and need reveals the necessity for communion with the Creator. When you give this emptiness to God, He fills it with something the world cannot give: the fullness of His presence. Have you ever felt this peace? That sensation of being complete, even when alone? That is the work of the Holy Spirit. And it is this Spirit who sustains you when memories try to drag you back. So, the next time desire knocks, don't run from it. Surrender it. Don't fight alone. Pray. And don't condemn yourself. Trust. Because God understands your heart, but He also warns you. Do not trade his comfort for the illusions of the world. My friends in faith, God does not condemn you for feeling. He understands you, because he is the one who created you with emotions, with sensations, with a desire to love and be loved. But the Lord also calls you to wisdom, so that desire does not dominate you, but rather leads you to a purer, more mature love, more like his. Remember, growing old is not losing the fire of life. It is learning to light that flame on the right altar. And when you place your feelings in God's hands, he transforms guilt into peace, loneliness into comfort, and desire into worship. So, if this message spoke to you, tell us here in the comments. Have you struggled with this in silence? Share your story because it might help someone today. Leave your like, subscribe to the Ageless Souls channel, and send this video to a friend who needs to hear that God understands the human heart, even in the areas no one dares to talk about. Because in the end, the love of God is the only desire that truly fulfills. May he continue to bless you, and we'll see you in the next video.